Get afraid with this image and everything.
So, should we start? Although we are standing between lunch and you. So anyways, so that's a disclaimer. It's not working. Hello? Okay, fine. So that's a disclaimer. This demonstration is for educational purposes only, and we don't intend to make any harm to any open source organization or a commercial organization. For exploitation is really a big issue. So coming to the first thing, what actually we have is a brain, right? What a brain does, it just controls our hardware organisms, whatever we have, maintains our metabolism activities and all. So similarly, the OS does things like process management, memory management, and the basic interaction module. It does provide us with the basic functionalities what a human body, a computer, which is more of a human now, can do, right? So moving ahead with it, I'm sorry. Probably I'm a little more excited with
System. Is it the highest kernel? I was just going to give the options and everything. So here, if you want to exploit, or if you want to, you can say make an operating system vulnerable, you will have to deal with the kernel at first. If you make the kernel weak, you can make the whole operating system weak, be it any flavor of Linux, be it any flavor of Windows.
Skull's eye. It's not bullseye, we have kept it skull's eye. So the basic terminologies we are going to use over here for exploitation are EIP, ESP, and EBP.
Yeah, so you all know all these things. These are like the basics of the architecture of an microprocessor, or be it anything in the digital world. The instruction pointer will always point to the instruction which is going to be getting executed as of now, or if you want to get a new execution, it will point out to that particular instruction to be executed. Whereas the stack pointer always points to the stack, the top of the stack, which already you have seen in the first session where Madam Lakshmi Ishwari has explained you how to secure your code, in which the stack pointer was being used to put your own attack code or something like that.
Give me a second, please. We are geeks. We eat and sleep code. All that's in store. We have gadgets, food, code. As you can see me, I'm a lot of foodie. And what else? We love music. What do we have next, Shashank? Yeah. So all geared up. These are the tools and guns and bullets for us today. We have virtual machines. We have Python, not the literal ones. We have OllyDBG, Immunity DBG for debugging. We have WarFTP 1.6 version, and we have MSF, that's Metasploit framework. So we'll be demonstrating you some of the functionalities and what all we can do with it. So it's demo time. You can dance to our codes here, although it's not music to you, some of you, but most of all we have an InfoSec awareness workshop or InfoSec conference over here. So we expect all computer people over here. So coming to a demo, as we have seen, there are lots of glitches during demo. So we created a video for that today morning. So Shashank, would you take them forward with it? Are you all ready?
Definitely. This is a just recorded video. Here you are seeing a screen is nothing but a debugger, be it any, here I'm using OllyDBG, you can use WinDBG, Immunity Debugger, there are various freely available debuggers to debug your executable models and everything. This is the base machine Ubuntu over here. We are having two virtual boxes. One is the Windows XP, which is our target, Service Pack 3. And the other one is the attacker, nothing but Backtrack, which one of your friends has just given you an idea about the Backtrack. He was explaining the Backtrack 5R3. So here I'm just going to open WarFTPD. Now what exactly WarFTPD is, it's just a daemon to run an FTP client. You know all FTP server. You'll be using FTP servers to download various images, various updates of the antivirus and everything.
Basically it's for use for fast transfer of data.
So here you can see on the right hand panel, you can see the EIP, the ESP, everything in detail. And I'm just running the WarFTPD now. Now it has gone into the NTDLL. That is nothing but NT stands for, you know what NT stands for?
NT.
NT. New technology. New technology, that is a Windows proprietary. So it has gone into the kernel in short. So you can see the IP address of the ender port. This is the GUI of the WAR FTPD. Now, what an attacker all needs to do is just he needs to get into the same network of that thing. Now, that can be done by various network hacking tools, or be it IP spoofing or something like that. So now we will go into the VirtualBox of Backtrack. Here in Backtrack, I will be running some of the, as usual, runs to our code. So we will be writing some of the Python scripts. Very simple and very easy to thing. First, we are checking whether it's pinging or not. It should be on the same network as I told you.
So we are right now on the attack machine and we are pinging the victim.
So now we write a code. G8 is nothing but an editor to write a Python script. Here is my Python script. Here in buffer, the IP. So in the morning you have heard about the stack buffer overflow and everything. So we are going to do a similar kind of exploit on the command of user, trying user with len. That user is nothing but the user and password. There are two commands, right? User and password. So that user command, we are going to buff it. So this can be even automated by using various fuzzers. FTP fuzzer is available and everything. But here we are going to do it manually. So when I execute this code, it will try the user command with the different types of lengths of buffers.
So we actually fuzzed the data onto the victim.
Yes, we have just dumped it onto that user command. So here you can see it has crashed to an instruction pointing EIP pointing to 414141. That is something which is called as the ASCII value of A. As you have seen in my code, I have written as A, alphabet A. And as soon as I try to execute it, or I have to run this module with the help of an EIP pointing to 4141, it will say it is not a readable code. So here we reopen this WAR FTPD as it has already crashed. Now my next point is of the aiming is like being a penetration tester, I have achieved the successful crashing of the daemon or of the .exe of any application. And the next step is to get the handle of EIP so that I can point it to certain different instruction code which I want to run on my own, or if I want to, if certain person like a hacker, they will try to run a shell code or run anything which will exploit the whole Windows kernel. So herein we are going to try to take control of the EIP. Now here we will use the two tools of Metasploit. Metasploit is again an proprietary which is already dealing with the different type of exploits available. So we will locate first the exactly where the tools are available in the Backtrack. So MSF3 is nothing but the Metasploit framework version 3. So once into the MSF3 tools folder, I will use the two already available Ruby codes for generating a pattern. Here I will be using pattern create and pattern offset, as you can see on the right hand side.
So first we'll create a pattern and then we'll create an offset for it.
So what will happen when I generate this pattern? I will copy this pattern into the buffer. Last time we were randomizing it and we were changing it to try with different lengths till it reaches 4000. Now we will put this specific pattern into that buffer. I'll just copy this thing and I will paste it into my code. Right in here, I'll just pasted it, as you can see. So the attacker just needs to know the IP address of the victim machine, which is running a WAR FTP vulnerable type of daemon. I have executed it.
Now let's see what happens on the victim machine.
So this has crashed to an instruction pointing to a certain value called as 3271431. So by using this, I have used the pattern create and created a pattern of 1000 and I have made it to crash it to a certain location called as EIP 3271431. Now the basic problem with Windows XP is it is not a randomized kernel. So whenever I rerun this same executable again and again, as you are seeing, I am crashing it and I am running it again, it will be running in the same memory location as it was earlier running before the crashing. Whereas if it would have been a Windows 7 kernel or it would have been even a Vista kernel, it would randomize its location. So this kind of exploit is not possible in the Windows 7, but there are different types of overflows available.
There are different ways to do it actually. Here we don't use an ASLR, but in Windows XP and Vista, in Vista and 7, we have an ASLR which actually randomizes this facility over there. So we got an offset of the value from the OLED-DBG over there, and we are using that offset with the pattern code we have in Ruby.
So this pattern offset will have to include two values. First, the location where it has crashed by using the offset, and secondly, the offset value which we used, that is nothing but 1000. So these two inputs are necessary for this thing. We will be just confirming whether it crashed to 3271431. So I just confirmed it again whether it's confirmed to be. We have to provide that as an input to that pattern offset. Now how we use that pattern offset is, we have to, everything has an offset, the base value and the pointer value. So we will use that to guess where the ESP is pointing to, or to get the location of ESP, we have to execute this kind of allocation. Now as you can see, 485 is the output which that tool has given me.
So we got the ESP value as 485, and we'll use it in the next program we have.
So now I'll explain you what this exactly 485 will be, like how I will be using this code into how I will be changing my buffer according to the 485 value. As you see, it was the 414141. So 485 was the first offset value which we have received. So 486, 487, 488 and 489. So that means at the value of 489, I can execute certain task and I can achieve it. So if my instruction pointer is pointing to a location of 489, then I can include a shellcode, I can include anything.
Probably we can redirect it to the location we want to. We are actually making it to reach out to a place where we can take control over it.
Just taking control of whole EIP. That is the basic idea of the penetration testing. I have penetrated into the kernel. So here I am putting the value as 489 and I have manually assigned X42. That was earlier displaying as 414141. So I will try to display that as a 424242 now. Let's see whether I can do it or not. So
well, I suppose, Shashank, I'll be interrupting.
Oh, this is the same interrupt which you can get as INET 3. It's a forcible interrupt for me.
Yeah, it's a forcible interrupt. That's what this program is intended to do, right? You can clap. You can clap. Well, instead of a forcible interrupt, we can even redirect it to some of the shell code we want to, or whatever we want to do with that system now. Okay. Now so coming forward with that.
That's the point of difference between a penetration tester and a hacker over here.
Yeah.
He wants to run an executable or something which will exploit.
We showed you how to take a control over it, but we'll not show you how to actually exploit it. Because that is not what we are intended to do over here. That's what our ethics say, right? So you will be ethical or non-ethical? You will exploit or you will still exploit, huh? So, anyhow. So moving forward, this thing we got to know about how to penetrate or how to make an exploit run manually, right? So we'll be moving forward how to do it automatically. We have certain tools, we have certain set of frameworks running around which actually gives us this functionality, gives us this power to actually test on what is happening and how we can use these exploits.
So here in Backtrack we are having a Metasploit framework. In the network exploitation tools, I'm having a tool called as Armitage. So that we will be explaining it. Excellent. So here, this is a snapshot which I have taken. We will go into a demo very soon. Herein you can exploit even Windows 7, Windows Vista. It is an automated tool. It will keep on updating as you have the software updates, your Windows updates. So as the MSF3 also has its own updates, it will keep on updating as far as the changes in the Windows kernel and in the various different operating systems. It will keep on changing it.
As per the ethical experts or the ethical hackers give us the information or give the Metasploit framework people their exploits, what they have done, they do update it on timely basis. So this is just a snapshot how a control is taken over from from an attacker to a victim.
Let's go to the demo of this thing, Akash. So here we are back in Backtrack, as you can see.
You can
And-
even do it on any Linux kernel. You can download MSF client, MSF console, and you can use it there.
And I will show you I'm running two Windows machines. Above one is a Windows 7 and below one is a Windows XP Service Pack 3. And we will try to see how much can we exploit Windows 7 and Windows XP with this kind of tool called as Armitage. So herein you can see this is Windows 7. I will just tell you the details of the operating system. This is the Windows 7 Professional Edition, which is under exploitation, or you can say under penetration. So what all we did with the first one, the same thing. This will also do the Armitage, but it will be an automated kind of thing, and we won't be able to show you the what exactly coding and what exactly being executed over there. We can't debug and everything. We can't just do anything. Even the victim machine won't get any notification to allow or deny or anything, and the victim's machine will be totally under our control. So we'll be running the exploitation tool of the network exploitation tools into the Metasploit framework and the Armitage. So it will first connect to the Metasploit RPC server. It takes a little bit time.
So we are giving us here the IP for the attack machine, from where we are attacking to the victim. So first we'll scan out what machines are available. We'll enter the entire range we want to scan, as we are already into the network with the help of certain network hacking tools. So to be sure, we are doing this on an isolated network. We are not exploiting any open network, right? So on scanning, you can see all these are the different exploits available inside MSF. So these are probably a good research done by penetration testers all over the world, and we should have a huge round of applause for all those penetration testers who are there contributing for the real cause. So let's move it forward, Shashank.
What we have actually achieved over here is scan completed.
So we scanned what are the hosts available. We have one Windows XP machine and we have one Windows 7 machine available with us. So in the Windows exploits, we'll probably exploit it with some already written code, because it's an automatic one.
Yeah, and in the Windows XP, it being so vulnerable, as yesterday also Mr. Himanshu Parikh was telling you, we should never use Windows XP, because with I will find the attacks and I will be able to execute any type of attack on XP3 service virtual box over here. So here are the various payloads available, and here is the exploit for Windows XP I will be doing. So I will just say attack, and I will perform any kind of attack on Windows XP, and within minutes I will be able to, within not even minutes, in some seconds I will be able to get hold. Now that's what it's the red color screen over the XP virtual box says that
says we got a control over it.
We have got a full privilege control, and even that XP didn't say any allow, deny, or it didn't even ask for any permission or anything like that. Whereas for Windows 7, we will be going to the browser kind of attack. In this specific browser attack, we will be attacking MSF 10.046.
DLL loader attack.
Shortcut icon shortcut DLL loader. Shortcut and DLL loader. Herein the DLL will be loaded. Now as you can see, the IP address is over there, 127.0.0.1. Now I just need to spoof this IP into any www.images.com or coolwallpapers.com, and I just want that Windows 7, the Windows 7 machine, the user to actually access into that URL. I won't be doing that because my intention is not doing so. My intention is only to take whether I can go into or it not. So I was able to go into it. I was able to provide a link, and that I just need to go into that link. That's it.
So what all attacks we can do with the Windows XP machine over here, which is available. We have a Meterpreter shell. In this we got into the command shell of Windows XP machine. So we can do whatever we want over here.
We have got the command, it says haha, we have got the control of the CMD at the name of the command prompt of Windows XP. Secondly, even I will be able to run various tools, or like you can say the different type of attacks are available, which we have to run. Meterpreter, when we can interact, we can access, we can steal the tokens, we can dump hashes, we can interact with it, we can have a desktop VNC, nothing but a virtual connection to it. Now here I am running the different, browsing the files which are already available, and the Windows XP machine is just running. It's not even prompting anything, not even showing any type of messages that something has happened. Even it's running very smooth. Even if it's a day-to-day activity you are performing, but at the back of it, hacker has totally taken control of your machine. We can get the log keystrokes now. As you can see, we have logging and recording keystrokes. And in the XP machine, I will type anything, but whatever I type, even if I don't save those files, even if I don't save any of the content, all of that will be available to the hacker at the window.
Kind of a side channel attack we performed over. Whatever is typed into the Windows XP machine, we get out that result onto our attack machine.
And I don't need any hardware of keylogger or anything like that. I just need to perform an attack with the Armitage tool. Now here I'm saving a bank password. Not even saving, I'm just typing it onto a notepad, and I will close it. I won't even save it. So this is the XYZ is the bank password for my bank account or anything. I will just close it. I didn't even save it. But at the attacker side or at the Armitage side, we can get all the details because it's nothing but the keystrokes. It is what is achieving it from it is nothing but the keystrokes. Even the caps lock, tab, everything will be recorded. See, you can see over here, the keystrokes are captured and everything.
So these are the processes which are running on Windows XP machine. We can easily see out what everything was going around. So moving forward with it. So these were the aftermaths for it, right? With that, probably that's all we had for today. And it's a vicious cycle. As you know, it's a very deadly cycle. You should not fall into trap with it. You should be very much ethical with it. While exploiting, you should do it for a good cause only. And there are two things, consequences and cause. So you should be knowing what exactly you're doing. You should not fall trap to it. Well, that's all for today. Thank you.
You can put forward any questions anyone is having.
And all. I hope it was very useful to you all. And I now request Professor Srinivas Rao sir to present a token of appreciation to Shashank and Akash.
Will not take much of your time, don't worry. We are standing between lunch and you.
SMS.
So who is the first winner?